Okay. Hello and welcome to this info session of Erfan Halgheh. Today we will be covering what the Erfan Halgheh program is about in general, and also give some introductory information about who Dr. Taheri is, the founder of Erfan Halgheh, and we'll discuss the overall what we're gonna cover in the entire course. And then if you have any questions, I can for sure answer. This is an info session to see if there are enough interest to start a new course. It will be here in the same place, in the same time. We're probably gonna have to have 3 in-person sessions and 1 online session because of the availability of the location. So we will basically give more information if that changed. So I'm just gonna let someone in. So as you can see here, this is about info session of Erfan Halgheh old program. This implies that there is a new program that you can sign up in the Taheri Academy. I will have the website in next slides. The old program consists of 8 main courses and then 2 complementary courses. And the 8 main courses are an overall covering some information about Erfan specifically. And then the 2 complementary courses, one covers Cosmointel, and it's not Scientology. It's Cosmointel, and I will cover what that is. And then the other one, the FIU, which is optional for people who wants to know what the topic is and what the application is. So, learning a little bit about Dr. Taheri. He's born in a city in Iran called Kermanshah. He's an engineer, mechanical engineer. He had various. Sorry, I'm just going to get someone else in. Maybe I can ask someone to do this for me. Sorry about that. Okay. So he was born. That's another person. Okay, I gotta ask someone to do this for me. Maybe I can ask Hadis to help me do this. Hadis John, do you mind if you let people in the participant? I just made you host. Thank you. I appreciate it. So the session is not interrupted. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So he was born in 1965 in a city called Kermanshah in Iran, and he's an engineer by profession. He invented many things. He was awarded by the government at the time for his inventions, and he at one night, it was 31st of October, I believe 1978, if I'm not mistaken, yes. And he had a spark of information coming to him as a form of revelations and epiphanies, as a consequence of his extreme enthusiasm of knowing what this space made of. So he was really fascinated by space and the existence of how this world came to existence, and he was really holding an enthusiasm, very fundamental questions of what this existence is made of. So through this enthusiasm over the years, kind of building up to the point of really overwhelming level, he had this spark coming to him as a massive amount of information that night, which is, as I mentioned, October 31st, 1978. And he then starts to investigating for the next 10 years to see the validity of the information that he got, researching on his own to see if the information that he received is legitimate, if people talked about it before in the history, what are there any overlaps in any other schools of thoughts or religions or philosophy or science regarding this information. So he spent first decade to really explore that. And also he started to using some of the practical aspects of this information, which I will get into. And then he started that teaching starts spreading, more and more people start experiencing the practical part of it, and then he was able to actually develop a terminology, put it all together in a coherent way, so he can really share it with other people, not just the theoreticals, but also the practical part of it. So he started developing some terminologies. He found some overlapping information with Sufis, Arefs in Iran. I'll explain those words later. If you hear me saying words that you don't know, I will try to cover what that means later. I have an honor to be part of the translation group committee of Dr. Taheri's team, and over the years we really try to find a proper terminology to really transfer this information correctly and consistently. So some of the information, some of the words and terminologies with also Dr. Taheri's preference and over discussions of many people that are really knowledgeable about developing terminologies in literature in English and other languages, we realized that we can't really translate some of the words, and those are the unique terminologies of Erfan Halgheh, which at first is of course foreign for you, but you will develop an understanding what those are. And I really encourage everyone to not have any presumptions about what the definition is, and allow me to really define it for you, because I can say a word and you already have some presumptions what that means. I would really invite you to really just have an open mind and then really clear mind about what the word means, and let me just translate it for you. So Erfan is a knowledge of quality world, and I'll get into that in a second. So just a little bit of description if I keep repeating it so you're not completely lost. So he was really exploring this overlap of information, if there is, with other people, other Arif. And Arif is the person who's in the path of Erfan, and then it's very Persian word, and it's really linked to some of the Sufi practices. So what we talk about here and what we refer to as Erfan, what I want to clear up is what it's not. Erfan, it's not a mysticism, and it's not a gnosticism, and also it's not Sufism. So you can't really make these words synonym, because they're completely different implications and different definitions of what each of these words means. So I've seen people trying to translate these content and using words that are not appropriate for the context that they're using. Me spending past decade really studying and translating it and practicing it, I've really took a peek and deep look at what each word and concept means, and if we could use those words. And so Erfan are not those things. So now through those explorations of Dr. Taheri, he read some of the Sufi scriptures as well as Erfan scriptures, philosophy scriptures, to see if his revelations that he received was unique or whether that was discussed before. And there are some minor overlaps on the literary part that he actually quotes, and you can see some of the poetry that he refers to from Maulana, or known as Rumi in Western world, from Hafiz, from many other Sufis or many other Arifs that he uses a reference of, but that doesn't mean that those people are completely aware of these contents, and there are very specific, unique information that you can't find anywhere else. Me being a Persian person, an Iranian, knowing the Erfan culture, I can assure you that what you learn in Erfan is very, very unique, and I did my homework studying other schools of thought as well, and I spent before Erfan practicing some of them as well, so I have a hands-on experience on those and what they work and what they don't, and I can actually speak of it based on my experience. So I just want to let you know that what you're, if you see any terminologies or anything that might ring a bell for you, hold on to that thought and don't jump into the conclusion that you already know it. because we're going to just transform a lot of things that you thought that you know. So Dr. Taheri, unfortunately, he was arrested for some false accusations by Iranian government because they didn't like how famous he got and the things that he claimed actually is true, and actually changing a lot of religious dogmas in Iran, and then some religious extremist views that was developed and was forced by the Iranian Islamic agenda to basically really define what Islam means for people instead of actually letting them to research that for themselves. So a lot of those types of views were challenged by Erfan Halgheh, and part of the reason that Iranian government didn't like that, or many more reasons, but part of the reasons was that he was really transforming what a lot of these esoteric spiritual concepts in, for example, Islam or Christianity or in Zoroastrianism or any other religion means for people, that they were actually looking for the answers for the truth, and finding this what we think is like an objective truth, that the objective laws of existence that is basically one for everyone, and everyone throughout the ages and histories tried to really just explain why we are here, where we came from, and where are we going after we die. So this aim was basically put into words based on geographical context and some specifications. So after he was released after roughly 10 years, he came to Toronto, and right away he started what was interrupted by Iranian government, and he started the Taheri Academy that you can go to the website, and it's the continuation of what was interrupted as that 10 courses, which was the 8 main course and 2 complementary course. And then coming back, he realized that he needs to put it all together in a very coherent way, and maybe categorize it in a much more clear and much more subcategories for people, that if they want to just focus on a specific topic rather than the entire program. So he really put a lot of effort producing a lot of high quality videos and high quality productions to really put the material in a very coherent way, in a more categorized way. So if people want to really focus on one aspect of Erfan Halgheh, which I will get into, they're not really pushed to basically wait maybe a little longer, or take other ones to reach the other ones. It makes sense when I explain. So after that, he also started Cosmointel. This was actually started before, but he officially started a first scientific journal on T-consciousness field, and also the first type of scientific research. And when I say scientific, I really mean it. Some people have issues with the word scientific, because this also is viewed as a spiritual school of thought, and they say like, well, why you call it scientific? This is becoming a pseudoscience or things like that. I'm currently studying in University of Toronto in material science and engineering, and I'm also honored to be part of Cosmointel as a presenting the researches and also be a researcher on that. And then we do have laboratory results that indicates for the first time in history, and these I know that these claims are big, but I'm here today standing here and tell you that great news, that we are for the first time in human's history to record the effect of T-consciousness field in laboratory setups, and this is reproducible and repeatable, and whoever doesn't like it because it's basically pushing a lot of boundaries, they can wait maybe 5, maximum 10 years for this to explode. And today you can basically put in your calendar, at least if I had the honor to be the first one to give you this news, but it's not, I don't think I can be the first one. It's already been out there for some time. So there are great results in various fields, from biology to physics, from engineering. There are great results that you can produce it in lab, and you can see the effect of T-consciousness field on various fields. I'll get into that as well. Also, he started Taheri Peace Organizations and also Taheri Movement for political movements, and also doing some environmental activities. So there are various type of actions, activities, if you're interested to participate, from cleaning the environment to doing some political humanitarian human right activities for people that are political, for example, political prisoners in Iran or anywhere else that the human right is violated. The Taheri Peace Organization is doing the news part of it and also doing some humanitarian activities. So just a little more about Dr. Taheri. You see his photo, just looking good there. Actually making an airplane. So he made that in his backyard. And these are his handwritings, kind of trying to study how the airplanes works and some sketches developing those ideas. So the idea that actually one of the underlying ideas in Erfan Halgheh is the notion of T-consciousness being the fundamental break of existence. So I started specifically here because if you understand this, you can really follow the implications of what is happening on the scientific part of it, what is happening on an Erfan or spiritual part of it, and philosophy and so on. So T-consciousness is, and the reason that it's T stands for Taheri consciousness, because like we have, for example, the Heisenberg relativity. We have specific laws with the specific names of the person who found it, because to distinguish between what consciousness means here specifically according to Dr. Taheri. So consciousness, I'm actually very interested in doing comparative studies in the definition of consciousness and what is out there already in mainstream media and also in literature, no matter what field it is. So I'm doing some of that homework on my own, but I encourage people to really do that if they're really interested, to see if what does the consciousness means without what we learn here. You realize that a lot of that really relates to the self-awareness. A lot of the activities that are associated with the brain, they can link it to anything from something physical as brain, or like microtubules, or basically some sort of a mental awareness. So there are a lot of definitions of consciousness out there, but none of them actually points out specifically what we mean here with its all the intricacies and nuances. So T-consciousness, standing for Taheri consciousness, is a non-material, non-energetic phenomena that actually causes the formation of energy and matter. And T-consciousness, these are interchangeable, so they can actually turn to each other. So we know about matter and energy, that they're constantly basically changing back and forth, but we didn't know there's something else, T-consciousness, that is non-energetic, non-material, which means that it's not wave-based, which means also that you can't measure it with any equipment. So we can't measure it directly, and the scientific part of it is that we use the scientific equipment to actually measure the effects that we see that T-consciousness has on, whether that's material, whether that's, let's say, concrete, whether it's on enzymes, whether it's microorganisms or organisms. So anything that we apply this T-consciousness, which is a field, which can be a field, it can actually have effects on anything. So now what that effect is part of the subject of the study, and how that actually affects and all those things. Dr. Taheri explains it all in regards to the ecosystems and how the intelligence works, and also the status of human beings in existence, and so on and so forth, which I will cover. So just to recap, so this is one of the fundamental aspects of Erfan Halgheh, that we have T-consciousness as a break of existence, forming the matter and energy, and also being able to change. This is a chart that you see if you enter Dr. Taheri's website, Matari Academy, and it shows the vastness of the Erfan Keyhani Halgheh school, and it shows all the different fields that it's going to cover. We're not going to cover all this. This is not what we're gonna cover, so don't scare. What we're gonna cover is Erfan Halgheh old program, and that's not completed. Still an ongoing process for Dr. Taheri to introduce. Every day he's publishing material or producing material that will be published in the new academic course. So again, if you're interested in this material and then you find it exciting, I really encourage you to sign up for this course, because there are materials that is not in this course and it will be only covered in that course. You don't have to finish this to sign up for that. You can sign up right away. You can do it in a parallel. That's a little bit of a slow release, since he's really putting an effort to record them in a high quality and also in a specific categorization, and he's caught up with 100 different things as the Cosmointel, other things. So he's very busy, but he's doing his best to release the videos. I really encourage you to sign up for that and get the information. So here you see you have deep consciousness, it's its own course. You have Erfan Halgheh, and you have T-consciousness bond, which is a theory. I'm just going to go over it briefly. I'm not going to explain this because each of these is a course on itself, and the whole program can talk about it. But I'm just going to go over it for you to have an idea of the areas that is covered by Erfan Halgheh School. So we have Erfan Halgheh, we have T-consciousness bond, which basically goes to some of the notions, software program, software correction, and software effect. We will discuss this in the course. There's science fact. There are many documentaries that I encourage you to watch on the YouTube. I'll have that link in the next slide. We have the Interuniversal, which is Renaissance and the modern human right. He actually published new criteria for more unity-oriented and more optimal way of governance. Maybe I don't actually want to use the government, because I would say like a political system or a system in which that country could be ran by that is harmonious, and the human rights, it would be something added to human rights. I also encourage you to read that. It's very comprehensive, and I think it's a very great solutions for the political situations and models that we have that governments are ran by, and we don't see really one that is perfect on Earth, even in Scandinavian countries or North America. We still have issues that the human rights are violated or it's not sufficient. So he gives a lot of solutions that are really worth looking, and I think it solves a lot of problems that we're encountering right now. But that's for that part, and we have T-consciousness cosmology. There are again many documentaries that he's basically giving new theories about how the existence came to life, and how all the cosmos is working, how whether there's a whole different theory on that, and I don't want to get into it, but even to the level of Big Bang, from very, very beginning, what happened, because Big Bang is just a model, physics is basically finding the best model that fits the reality. It's not written on stone. So some people think that, okay, if the Newtonian laws works, then that's basically dictates everything else. And that's what was our reality until quantum mechanics. And quantum mechanics came and just basically flipped the table. And it tells us that whatever that we observe in the macrocosms, it doesn't actually happen in nanoscales, and the whole thing changes. So that really changed everything for us, and quite frankly, a lot of the technologies that we use today is actually for the 19th century's technology. So we haven't even caught up much with the advancement on that. But I believe, rightly so, next wave is T-consciousness being added to what we know from how the existence actually works. And you're definitely missing that part, and that's why we don't have a lot of solutions relying only on science as we know it, the conventional science. We can't answer a lot of things. We don't know how many things works. We don't have answers for why things that we think that we know, or why the things that works the way it does. So that will be something that we will discuss. Sorry, I just realized I logged in with the wrong account in the Zoom, so the time is going out. I'm going to give you another link soon. So, sorry, just going to go back. And then we have T-consciousness biology. You can see some of those informations in the articles that is published in Cosmointel, and you can see some of the information that, or the implications of it, but he didn't really dive deep into this concept yet, but he will get soon. And we have non-organic beings, which is associated with one of the complementary courses that I pointed out earlier. And we have, other fields, arts, philosophy, megapolitics and management, and we have the hikmat, divine wisdom and worldview. And then we have the Iranian complementary medicine, which basically is subcategorized in two subcategories, which we will discuss in this program, which is software is Scientology, again, is not Scientology. I get that a lot, so I need to clarify every time. And then it's software, hardware, it's Faraday. I'll explain what that actually means. So don't worry about it too much. And basically the implication is the impact on humans, animals, plants, microorganisms, and cells, and how it actually affects them. So here you can see the Dr. Taheri's YouTube channel. These are some of the resources that he put together over the years. There's Erfan Halgheh TV. It's actually on satellite. You can watch it. The content's, of course, in Farsi, but there's hard work to be done for it to be English as well. There's Erfan Halgheh applications that actually it's in English as well. So if you register for a new academy course, you get access to this. And then you can go to the app, and then you can access your courses and videos and material there, and you can basically see your progress on each of the courses. And this is another YouTube channel, and there's also another app for the Erfan Halgheh TV. You can actually download it and then have it live streaming from your phone. If you don't have satellite at home, some people don't use satellite anymore. But if you want to watch it, there are great programs on TV that you don't find it anywhere else. Dr. Taheri put the great production team, TV management team together to produce high quality programs for people that are interested. So it's 24/7 programs live, and there's great contents that you can't find anywhere. And this is Dr. Taheri's YouTube channel. As you can see, there's playlists that it takes you to all different categories of old program videos that are, of course, some of it in Farsi. The only content in English right now, as of today, is in YouTube, is the T-consciousness cosmology, the documentaries that is related to the theories of Dr. Taheri regarding the cosmos. So I really encourage you to watch them. It's in English, German, I believe one of it is in French as well. So you can watch them online. Okay, so before I get to this, I'm just gonna give people another link, and I don't know how, sorry guys, I'm just gonna hang this up and give you another link. I tried to sign in with my proper username, so you don't have to do this again, so it might take a little bit of time. I'm making an apology for that. kitel adamım. Alaması çıkamam. Sorry. Almost done. I hope everyone has the link. Does anyone need the link?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Can I send it to the which group should I send it to? Oh, I can actually do that. Okay.
Oh, this is the one that Maha just sent?
Yes. Okay.
It's actually the 6:19 one, right? 6:19 p.m. She sent it.
Let me check. I'm not sure. I don't know how. It's the last one. Oh, merci.
Is this session being recorded?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, we record. It's
Very
recorded,
good
right?
to post it. Very good.
I'm not sure yet, but we'll basically disclose
Because
that.
some people showed interest, but they
Oh yeah, for sure. Like maybe
Yeah.
YouTube or in the Anjolan's channel.
Oh,
Like we would do that.
great.
Okay. Yeah, of course. My pleasure. Okay. All right. I'm going to give it a little bit more. I guess there are more people. I'm not sure if everyone joined. All right. Okay. Everyone joined now. All right. Okay, so Erfan Halgheh, one of the other fundamental notions that Erfan Halgheh is based on is a concept called Taheri or Interuniversalism. What this means is that human existence is as vast as the totality of universe, and that has a lot of implication, which we get deeper and deeper throughout the course. What that means. One of the implications is that if we are as vast as totality of existence, then any issues that we might have, like any illnesses or any disorders, would be as complicated as totality of existence. So diagnosing such a complicated existence is almost impossible, I could say impossible, by a human being, because our ability is limited. We only see very, very limited amount of frequencies. We have very limited technology, and also we rely on our own interpretation of what each of these information means, how they correlate with other problems or issues. and how can we really find the solutions for it. So that's why the model that we really came up with so far is merely relying on physical and measurable aspects of existence and not all of it. So anything that was non-measurable or unseen was for some time considered as a superstition or metaphysics or something like that, and was disregarded for some time. For example, acupuncture or polarity healings or sound healing or things like that was some of the concepts that they were considered superstition were not as important because they were not directly measurable. But over time, by people's experiences confirming the existence of these notions and the experiences that they had, we couldn't really deny them, and some of those fields became courses in the universities, and people are actually learning about them in university now. So a lot of the ideas that sorry, I'm just going to mute someone. Sorry, someone? We have, Sean, could you please mute everyone? Thank you. Because I made you a host, so sorry to give you trouble. So a lot of the ideas that we have regarding how the universe works or how our body works is only related to the physical body. Now, in Fargal Negeri also everything is connected to something else. So everything has this definition by something else, and every part it gives definition to the other part. So in one of the courses in Cosmointel, for example, we are aiming to find that true status of human existence in the universe. And what does it mean to be a human being, and what are we capable of, and what are the implications of that capabilities? What is our role here? How are we, in what kind of operation, if we operate, it would be aligned with the entire existence? If there is sets of natural laws, if we are as vast as the totality of the universe, so anything that we are causing, it would have effect on the totality of existence. So there are a lot of implications of what this notion means that we will discuss in the course. And one of it that we start with Faradamani is that given the fact that we are as vast as the totality of the universe, so finding any abnormalities or issues is out of a human's capability. So we need to rely on another source to tell us how can we be aligned and what are the problems, and that it requires an intelligence that governs those laws or is aware of those laws, can give us that information. Now, in Erfan Halgheh, we believe that there is a cosmic consciousness network that just works like an internet. I like the internet analogy because it simplifies this abstract concepts. And every time you get confused, you can simply think about how internet works and things that works with internet, and then kind of like come back to that simple understanding so you don't get confused. So how does it work is that there is this cosmic internet that we can connect to and have some features turned on in our existence and have some experiences. So in Erfan Halgheh, we are given this ability to connect with this cosmic internet and be able to utilize some of the features and some of the capabilities that was actually designed in our existence, but it was turned off and we just didn't know how to use it, we didn't know how to switch it on, but now we know how to do it. If you remember, I mentioned Dr. Taheri received revelations, and in a matter of 0 seconds, he received all this information that part of it was about this cosmic internet that you can connect to. And not only you can connect to, Dr. Taheri, the founder, but you can also share it to other people. And one of the interesting stories about that is that when he was given this information and this ability to use, he was being asked if he wanted for himself or he wanted to share it. And then he actually decided to share it with everyone else. And that's where he actually was revealed how to do that. And of course, he doubted himself. It wasn't something to just take it lightly and then, think that, okay, now I have this capability. So he really second doubted himself for some years. And really, as he says, he almost lost his sanity because it was so much information, it was so much implication, it was so much responsibility. And if it was true, it would have a tremendous effect on his life and how he sees the world and how he will interact with other people. So it was a very, very fascinating process to have when I personally think about just thinking about how it would feel to receive all this information, facing such an implication, and taking that responsibility that you had to not anymore live for your own desires or goals or things that you thought that matters in the world, but now you're basically are put in a positions to share this great opportunity and this capability to everyone else in the world. So it comes with a lot of responsibility. So he receives these revelations, and then he's able to actually share this capability of connecting to the internet with others and allowing others that independently use that for themselves and also offer it to others. And this is great. If you go do some research in any other schools of thoughts or any spiritual practice or anything similar of such notion, there's always something that people need to do, whether they need to do some sort of mental aim, whether they need to do some physical changes, whether they need to do some belief changes or anything like that. But here we actually asking nothing from individuals other than be an impartial observer. And what that means is that we just want to come with an open mind that there are some things in the world that we might not know or we might don't understand, but it works. Just like electricity and a lot of technologies that we nowadays use but have no idea how it works, and we have no idea how they exist. Like we know how to manipulate electricity and then use it to develop a lot of technology. Well, we actually don't know why it works. You have no idea why electricity works or does the thing that it does. And there's a lot of things in the universe that we take for granted. We think that, okay, this is just this, but it's not just because, we actually don't know how it works. We kind of learn how to manipulate it for our advantage, but we actually don't know how it actually works or exists. So he was able to give this capability to others, and we are able to independently connect to this cosmic internet and then have certain things switch on. And now this intelligence that governs the universe is, and when I say intelligence, I really mean it. And the more I explain to you what that means, the more you understand how intelligent it is. Just by a very, very simple look at the universe, how everything works together harmoniously, how all the birds know how to fly together, how trees know how to communicate together, how ants know how to build a nest to have specific positions and status to make the whole thing work. There's so many things in the universe that works harmoniously with each other and knows exactly what it's doing without any training. Human beings are actually but the only being that actually needs training how to live. Anything else pretty much knows how to live. And then with that vulnerability, there are so many great other things that comes that we will discuss later. What is the difference between humans and animals and other beings, other creatures in existence? But going back to this, so we have this intelligence governing the existence, and it implies certain natural laws. Now, this intelligence have access to all the information that exists in the universe to create what the world is as we know it. Now, by connecting to this cosmic internet, it starts scanning us, automatically find any issues in infinite layers of our existence, as we discussed, and able to actually detect them and starts to putting it back together toward order, which basically results healing, alignment, and overall well-being. And we will discuss the implication as well. So the process of connecting to this cosmic internet is very, very simple. We call it Nazar. Nazar is one of those words that we don't actually translate. And what it means, some people translate it as intention, some people make it like a glimpse, some people make it like a blink of an eye, but anything that is 0-second snap short, even that snap is long for it. So a mental process that it's 0 second. So I want to elaborate what Nazar means because it's very important. And I want you to really pay attention to everything that I say because it's basically the way you learn how to communicate with petite consciousness and the cosmic internet. And what that is that you imagine you want to communicate with someone. What do? You start thinking about what you want to say, and then you start saying it. And that takes a lot of time. From thinking to actually starting to develop the words to say it, it takes a long time. Now think about just thinking about what you want to say. That makes it shorter. Now think about just an instance of what you might want to say. So that makes it shorter. The shorter and shorter and shorter it gets, you get closer to what Nazar is. And that's how you actually trigger the connection with this cosmic internet, as simple as it gets. Another example is that imagine you have your phone and I said just connect to the internet. What do? Just basically toggle on your Wi-Fi and then that's it. You're connected. Now, how do you toggle on that switch in your existence? That toggling on the switch of existence is Nazar. It's a snap. We never taught that, and it's something new for us. It's so simple, it's complicated. So we are not used to achieving things without effort. And this is something new that we can actually see that we can achieve a great deal of things with connections to cosmic internet and utilize a lot of those features and capabilities but without any physical effort, without any mental effort, without any effort. So pretty much all you need is to be an impartial observer and snap that Nazar, and that's it. You're connected. Now, believe it or not, it works. And you can just try it, So don't take my words for it, and that's what we really stand for here in Erfan Halgheh, that we really don't want people to believe us on this step of what we call it on the step of act or on the step of logic. Just basically me saying it to you, you say oh, cool, maybe it exists. Well, that's great, but we want you to experience it. And the experience basically speaks for itself. And as soon as you experience, then no one can convince you that this thing doesn't exist. Because if I convince you that this thing exists by logic, by bringing you a lot of papers of my lab and showing you that, hey, look, this thing's worked, and then, write a very nice paper and put it in front of you, and then, maybe a very great professor that is very famous also signs at the bottom of the paper saying that, yes, this thing works in the lab. Or any other thing, even if I cause a miracle in front of you, none of that is of value in the eyes of Erfan Halgheh because someone else can come with a better paper written, a more famous professor, or a magic or a miracle bigger than what it meant for you, big, and change all that for you. But what can't be changed for you is that taste of an apple. So if I become a PhD in apple, and then wants to introduce you and you've never seen an apple, and I start telling you, apple is something round sometimes, and it comes with colors, right? Orange, green, red, and then it has seeds and tastes sometimes sweet, sometimes in between, sour, and you come up somewhat with what I really mean by it. But if someone hands you maybe a not ripe orange, and then you might mistake it by an apple if you have never seen it. But if I really convince you that this apple thing exists, and someone else comes and tell you a better story that why that doesn't exist, then it's very easy to really fluctuate between believing that apple exists and not believing apple exists. But if someone just pass you that, you don't need a PhD in apple to understand that apple exists. You don't need to have anything or any good explanations or anyone's signature or a famous person's signature on the bottom of a paper to prove you that apple exists. You just take an apple, a bite of an apple, and that's it. That changed everything forever. And from that point forward, no one can convince you that apple doesn't exist. No matter what happens to you, even if you say that apple doesn't exist, deep down you would know that you're lying to yourself. So experience speaks for itself. We are here all for that experience. This connection to this cosmic internet will give you an experience, and the rate is 70%. 30% people have, I'll get into the different type of people in a second, but there are some cases that might not work, and that's not because it doesn't work, it's because of some laws in existence in ecosystems, and also some limitations that people have in terms of their blockage. They think that they know everything and they just don't want to interact with it, so they block any possible experience. So that's one of the possibilities. So to recap, connecting with the cosmic internet, it allows us to experience something that it communicates directly with us in that intelligence and independent way. And when I say independent, it's really independent, especially now in classless class, which started not very long ago. We are able to actually receive these connections through the course on our own from the collective mind. And what that means is that before you needed a teacher like me to give you those connections for yourself to use. So I had to actually, you have to come to the class, and then I would say like, okay, close your eyes, and I would do that Nazar, and then from that time forward, you would be able to actually use that connection. But now, the role of the teacher is simply just to give you the information. And everyone can directly connect and receive those halghehs directly from collective mind. And you're gonna ask me what's the collective mind and what is, other one. Or what are other types of it? I'll explain that. But don't get too hung up with the details right now. But I want to tell you that everyone now is capable of, for example, let's say watching Dr. Taheri's videos online and just treat it as a live video. Just like, it's like you're in a live class. And anything that happens in that video, you can mimic it. And basically by signing, of course you need to sign for the course and learn the procedure, but the idea is that you can actually treat it as a live video and then receive the halghehs directly without a need for a teacher to be there or someone to give it to you, which is a great deal because it also really emphasizes on the independency of the individuals are capable of having this utilizations and connections on their own, and they don't need anything else or anyone else. The only thing that they need is to know that these connections are coming from Erfan Halgheh, and then be truthful for it because they're powerful and they work. So people don't use it for gaining status, money, or starting a new cult. So what we want is to be people to know that they have a treasure box within themselves, and they can open it and just face this great capability that we didn't know how to use it before. And through Erfan Halgheh connections, and that's given to us, and through this collective minds receiving the connections, we can independently use it and utilize it and basically tell everyone else to do so. You have a question?
Yeah. I have a question. Are we going to experience that practical?
Of course, yeah, we will do that. We will do that.
Because these concepts are
Yeah,
very
too much for
open-
him. Trust,
Yeah,
I know.
too much for
I know.
her.
We will
I want
experience
to-
it.
her
Yeah,
experience
yeah, of course, we
that,
will
yeah.
experience it. Just
At
bear
the
with me.
end, or
We can give it a break. We can give it a break in
Yeah,
the middle. I
because
just
she
want to
can-
like finish. Yeah, I just want to finish one other important factor for for us to know what you're expecting. So we'll get to that in a moment.
Thank you.
I know that too much information, but bear with me. Yeah, it's good. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. More questions? Anyone in the Zoom have any question? Okay. All right. So the way that this connection works, I talked about cosmic consciousness, cosmic T consciousness network a few times, and I want to like just see this chart. I will explain it more later. But how it works is that the Nazar, our intention after we are given the ability to use the connection, then we are actually sending that intention and it goes to God, and God releases the permission for us to receive that aspects. And that aspects, it comes through the divine T consciousness or cosmic T consciousness network as an agent. So God, now bear with me, a lot of people say, I don't believe in God. That's fine. If you don't believe in God, that's fine. We don't want you to believe in God. You don't need to believe in God. That might change though, but that's okay. Even if it doesn't change, don't worry about it. We don't want you to believe anything for this to work. I'm just explaining it for some people that they might be like, is the T consciousness God, or is it, what is this T consciousness? So some religious people would object to this right away. So for them, and then some atheists also object to it from the beginning, so that's not a problem. They can maybe just remain in impartial observation and then let the experience tell them what actually exists and what not. So here, when we talk about T consciousness or cosmic T consciousness network, we don't mean it's God, because we define what that is. Actually, God is ineffable. We can actually define it. But anyways, so this is how it works. Just have a little bit of diagram for people that might have some questions about that. But I will get back to it in the course very deep. So the world is the perception of the world. Our perception of the world is like the story of Elephant in the Dark of Rumi, Maulana. In this story, people are blindfolded in a room, and then they are asked to define what elephant is by touching it. So imagine there's a dark room, there's a big elephant in it, it doesn't make noises, and then everyone's blindfolded and then touch the elephant and wants to explain what elephant is. Everyone explain or define elephant as what they experience on a physical level. One person touches the leg, thinks like elephant is a big pillar. Some people touches the ear, think like it's a big fan. Or some people might touch the trunk and think like it's a big pipe. So everyone defines what elephant is by the limited experiences that they have with the limited senses that they have. Now, what elephant is none of these. So we know that elephant is none of those things. And what happens is that if we rely on our limited sensory experience and try to really define what the physical world or what existence is, then we basically end up with what we ended up right now in a conventional science. All we define is basically what we could observe by our eyes and by our technological means or any equipment. But now, even with that, we can really look into what the existence made of by just a thought experiment. And that really conveys that we really don't know much about this existence. Now, imagine a blade, like a piece of paper, or imagine a fan, like an electric fan. When it doesn't work, the fan, what you see is two blades. Or when you're just holding paper like this, is just a piece of paper. But if you start like, rotating it very fast, and just like a fan that starts like rotating, what you see is a cylinder. And if you never knew this process and you only would see the cylinder, anywhere you touch it, it actually exists. It's there. So you touch it, the cylinder is there. And you see it. So the question is, does this cylinder exist? Well, everyone says yes. But we also know that it doesn't. So we have two answers. This cylinder does and does not exist. And they're contradictory. Like philosophically, you can't make that statement. You're out of the discussions right away. If you make any statements that two part of the premises are contradictory, that's it. There's no argument. Now, there are nuances in there, of course. You see that there is an illusion that is created as a result of the motion, that it caused the cylinder. Now we know that we can know that, okay, the cylinder has, it exists, but it also doesn't exist because it's an illusion. Now we have a notion, I don't know if I have this, yes. So we have a notion called the coins of existence. So the existence have two parts. We have actuality of existence and we have truth of existence. The actuality of existence, the actualization and occurrence of something. So anything that happened, the event that occurred. But the truth of existence is the causality of the occurrence, like what caused it. The philosophy of the occurrence is basically whyness, why it happened. And we have the quality of the occurrence examinations. So we have the reason, the whyness of it, and the quality in which that happened. Now, going back to that example, we see that this cylinder is the same thing. The actuality of existence is there, but it doesn't have a truth of existence. So it's illusory. Now, our world is made of atoms. So atoms are consisted of electrons orbiting around nucleus. It's the same thing. The electrons are orbiting, or well, not technically orbiting, they're the clouds of around the nucleus, but anyways, that's a model to understand it. They're basically moving, and there's motions. So if the motion stops, what remains from the whole physical universe is maybe the tip of a little bunch of nucleus. So it all disappears. So this is basically an illusion. Even though it's really very real, it's an illusion. Now, the question is what causes this motion? And how does it know to cause the movements in a way that forms an eye of a cell of an eye, or a molecule of a stone? So how does this electrons know how to orbit or how to move, to not collide, or to form all these various phenomena in existence? And they're all made of the same thing. So how does it know? So that's why we believe that there is an intelligence that actually tells the electrons how to orbit and more. There is very fascinating idea, Dr. Taheri recently discussed it regarding quantum mechanics, that quantum entanglement, which is a very fascinating idea. And when he explained it in a new academy course, which again, if you're really interested in getting deep into those discussions and more, I really highly recommend to sign it up and do them at the same time as this. But anyway, so there is an intelligence that actually tells, that gives the information of how this motion should be. How does this electron should move to form this particle, but not that one? And how, for example, the singular cell, or how the molecules turns to DNA. How does the molecule becomes a living being? So how does it know? How does this information work? So all this is because there is an intelligence governing the entire existence that you're able to actually connect to and receive have a lot of capabilities and have scans or see features that you never seen before. So now I can go further, I can talk for hours. I don't want to, tire you with more information. So now I think I want to explain to you how we can actually do a connections together, so we can actually experience it. So enough of talking, let's just experience. So then we come back, and if you have any questions, and I can further clarify. There's more information I can discuss, but I don't want to also, I don't actually know how long it took, but I don't want to go over time. So I'm just going to explain to you how, again, the connection works, and also what you expect. So again, the only thing that is necessary for the connection is to become an impartial observer. You don't need to believe, you don't need to think or don't think or nothing. So you just need to do anything. Just like, let's say you're just watching the TV. When you turn the TV on, you want to watch it. If someone asking you, what are you doing? You just say like, I'm watching. That's it. You're not doing anything other than just watching. So that's pure observation. We call it shahid. So shahid is someone with an impartial observation that doesn't have presumptions. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Am I doing this right? Am I doing it wrong? What's going to happen? Do I need to believe this? I don't know what it is. You don't really need that. All we want to do is just turn on this hypothetical TV and just watch it. So what we want to do, we want to close our eyes, and closing eyes is not mandatory. The only reason we close our eyes is we don't want to be distracted by external circumstances or external factors. So we just want to close our eyes and be more aware of what might happen or what it's present. And we just want to basically observe. That's all we want to do. And when you observe, you might have experiences, you might not have any experiences, and we will discuss that later. But don't, think about, why I'm not having an experience, or am I having an experience, or don't analyze, don't let your mind start analyzing it. Just observe. It's so simple. You just want to observe. And this is not a meditation, just to clarify. A lot of people say this is just like a meditation. It's not like a meditation. I know that it's similar or it looks like it, but it's different, because here we have this connections that I was talking about as something that is there as an external factor. And you're basically aiming to experience something that is not related to us. In meditation, there is a lot of emphasis on, let's say, visualization, imagination, breathing, things that is related to us. And usually whatever that is for everyone else is there. Nothing extraordinary, repeatable, reproducible usually happens. I know that people have a lot of experiences. I've done that before, and I did have experiences, but I just want to basically move that away from people thinking that, this is just another meditation. We just want to observe what it is and experience what it comes, and then we come back, and if you have any questions I can clarify, and if you have more time I'll discuss further. Any question before we do it? Alright, so let's do it. Okay, so just to elaborate a little bit on whether you have experiences or you don't, there are some reasons, overall general reasons, that we discuss more in depth in the course, that it might actually cause individuals to not have experiences at the first times. I was myself one of those people. I didn't actually have experiences until third course, and third course was a game changer for me because I never experienced what I experienced at the time. So I really encourage you to not getting discouraged by if you don't have any feelings or if you don't experience anything at first, because there are a lot of reasons that you might not experience at first. I want to clarify that whether you sense something or not at the first times, it's not the indication of whether this is working or not, because as we mentioned, this is an independent intelligence doing the scans and the whole process. So regardless of what we experience or not, it does its own thing. So one of the reasons that we might not have any experiences is that from childhood we really programmed on a step of logic, and I explain what that is. But basically this rational subconscious that really wants to see everything logical, and anything 2 + 2 = 4 that is straightforward for understanding rational, logical, then we accept it. But if anything falls out of that framework, it just censors it, and or it doesn't allow that information to come in. And since a lot of this experiences is linked to our mind and has to do something to do with our subconscious as well. I mean, like the subconscious could affect it or impact the experience negatively. It is something that it would be dealt with over time. So the more you use the connections, the more it works on the different aspects of our existence, as I mentioned before, and that causes those issues to be resolved in a way that we experience it. So also there are three general reasons that we might not experience. One is mental block. Usually individuals might have, as I mentioned, a logical framework of mind, and anything that falls out of that framework, it doesn't allow it, and that in that case it's okay, and Halgheh would work and does its thing on us. The second thing is like depression, and when I say depression, usually people consider someone depressed when it gets to the physical or emotional level, as we categorize it, whereas visible. There are forms of depression that we believe that we actually subcategorize it later on in the course, that it's more subtle and it's not something that you can see immediately, or some people think that, oh, they're fine, but they actually develop depression in a very early stages, and we call it T-consciousness depression, and also we call it, then it becomes like a psyche depression, and then it becomes physical. So this T-consciousness emission depression is very, very elementary stages of depression, that you see the person, they smile, they laugh, they make jokes, they're operating just like a normal person, but they have this, negative T-consciousness around them, the T-consciousness emission, and that causes, sometimes you meet people that around them you feel a little bit heavy, even though that they might be making jokes and funs and they're like, on the surface fun to be around, but you kind of feel this heaviness, and that heaviness might be linked to that elementary stage depression. And those are, for example, reasons that can cause individuals to not have experience at first. So that's a possibility. And then there's third reasons, which is the third reason is what we consider the intentional blockage, where the person says like, no, this is not possible and I don't want it. And it happens sometimes in some cases where individuals on the surface, they show that they really want to experience it, but when they sit in a connection, they kind of like making fun of it within themselves. They don't allow it to work on them, or they don't want it to work out to begin with at all. So that is the only time that the connection actually doesn't get established or formed around the person. Therefore, even the effect would not actually be there. So those individuals would basically intentionally remove themselves from any possibility or allowing that field to work on them. And since you're working in Erfan Halgheh with positive intelligence network, it's not enforcing, so it's always respects individuals' free will and whether they want to be part of it or not, and if they don't want it, so it doesn't affect them. So basically, like, it would be out of the whole spectrum as we discussed. so they don't see the results. But if you're not part of the individuals that they actually close it or block it and don't want to have to do anything with it, if you keep doing the eتصals, you would experience at some point, but there might be some stages or some layers that needs to be dealt with by intelligence itself. And the priority of issues is also chosen by the intelligence itself. So it's not something that we can force it to be in one way or the other. So let's say if you have headache and you want to do Faraday-Harmony connection, you can't really choose like work it on the headaches or do something else. It's just basically us opening Faraday-Harmony and then basically allowing that scan to happen. So the connection that we did was the first connections that actually we received in Erfan Halgheh in the first course. It's called Faraday-Harmony, and Faraday-Harmony is a scan that happens with that intelligence that scans all the layers of existence that we established as vast as the totality of universe. And I'm going to bring back this chart. So we said that is as vast as the totality of universe, and through this connections, one of the complementary medicine that we discussed here was Faraday-Harmony, which what it does is does the software correction on software hardware level. And what does it mean is that in Erfan Halgheh, we believe that the existence is software based, which means that there is this software operation system behind the hardware, the physicality of existence that gives information, and that intelligence that basically imply or enforces a certain type of operation. And that operation is basically a type of software. Imagine like your computer runs on some sort of operation system, and that operation system is a software where your laptop and then the chips, electronic chips, your display, it's a hardware. So without the software, the computer would be just a box. So just some electronic circuits that it would be just basically a block. But what basically makes it a computer is that software that you can actually utilize it for specific purposes. So as I established, the illusory world of existence, which is an illusion as a result of the motion of electrons in atoms, it's being run by an intelligence based on certain softwares. And these softwares are specific in its laws and rules and how it works. And they're all intertwined and they work together and they're interconnected. Now, this software operates in a way that it goes from the T consciousness to energy and that matter. And this is how basically Dr. Taheri's theory is that how the universe is created. Very simplified version of it. So if this T consciousness is the information that is non-energetic, non-material, and it gives information and forms the energy, and then that energy forms the matter, then this is the way that it's basically created. There's the layers of operation system, layers of softwares that basically give information of how these things should operate to form a specific phenomenon in existence. Now, when that came to physical existence, it becomes a hardware. Now, we have Faraday-Harmony, which is one of the Halgheh, or a connection to the cosmic internet. Now, the Halgheh is a reference of, is a metaphor. It's actually a terminology of what is found in Erfan, of like classic Erfan of Iran in Sufism, or in more like a literature like Rumi or Hafiz or Saadi. These were like, some of them were Sufi, some of them were like Arif, that they were having some poetries that they had revelations about the existence of these, some of these concepts, but not the actual utilizations or practical applications. So kind of there are mentions of these phenomena or notions, but there's no signs of anything existing that people could use it. So Dr. Taheri used that terminology like Halgheh, and then there's a beautiful poetry that you will see it on your certificate if you complete the course. That basically mentions the Halgheh, and then Halgheh is basically a metaphor for this fields, the T-consciousness fields that surrounds us, and then it scans us and gives us certain capabilities or allows us certain access to certain features and capabilities as such. So one of this is Faraday, and that Faraday is a T-consciousness field that comes and scans us. And through the connection to the cosmic T-consciousness network, is able to find any faulty information in that software and put it back together in a correct way. It's almost like you have a faulty hard drive or faulty operation system, and you connect your backup hard drive, and then it's able to actually find what is faulty and damaged, and then copy and paste what is to correct it, and that's why it's called the software correction. So the software correction is what we believe that the underlying software that creates the existence, and some of it's still software, which is like the operation in mind, is still software, mental, like our mind is a software, there's nothing physical about our mind. But we see the effect of mind when it comes like physical, like our mind is capable of getting to certain operations that gives us actual physical reactions. Like something comes in our mind, let's say if it's like a bitter event in our life, and then gives us that chemical reaction within the body, and then the body reacts to it and becomes very physical. So that software, it basically runs in the mind, and we will get to all these details. I'm just basically briefly introduce some of the ideas here. So Faraday money is basically software hardware, but it basically works on the hardware part of it, the software behind the hardware. Let's say you have issues or illnesses and disorders that develop as a result of faulty information. So let's say a cancerous cell that it forgets its task description, and then it starts operating and replicating and duplicating excessively, and it doesn't, and the immune system is not capable of killing it, and it starts getting bigger and bigger and becomes a faulty operating cell. And conventional medicine wants to basically kill a lot of things in the body with chemotherapy and things like that through chemicals, introduction of chemicals, and kills a lot of healthy cells and aims also at those cancerous cells to basically cause the healing, or they just basically surgically removed. Well, that's the conventional science. Here, we basically believe that if we connect this faulty cellular consciousness to the cosmic internet, the operation running that cell is capable of finding the alignment and the optimal operation and correct itself without any hardware, without any procedure, like physical procedure. So that's why we saw a lot of results that people with like cancerous patients, that their cancers just disappeared. In conventional science, there's no such a thing as something disappearing. Something has to happen on a chemical level or some physical definition or explanation. But here, you see that just as easy as it is for energy and matter to transfer to each other, to convert to each other, if the matter is formed through the software-based process of information that formed the matter, physical matter, if the intelligence that tells those electrons to form a solid, tells the same electrons to stop orbiting, what happens? It just disappears. So to us is impossible because we look at everything in matter and energy. We say like, where is that matter energy? Where is the conservation, right? We don't see it and we just think that it's crazy. But here we know that, okay, that's simply just, I know it's not that simple, but we can now say simply just convert it to T consciousness. So the same faulty cell that was operating, replicating excessively, non-harmoniously with the body, then by getting connected to the T consciousness network, we see that we are capable of correcting the software and achieving healings. And now we can see that through all sorts of issues. That could be autoimmune illnesses, it could be cancers, it could be depression, it could be all sorts of issues, diabetes, name it. You know, all sorts of illnesses. There's absolutely no limitation for Faraday what it can correct on a software level. There's absolutely no limitation. So if you really look at it in this way, that everything is software, and just come out of that really rigid physical everything that causes us to want to surgically remove something or just basically pour some chemicals on it to negate another chemical, and then that chemical messes up something else, and then we just want to deal with that and we inject more chemicals to control that, and then we just have all sorts of other problems for the introduced chemical, and then we just ended up with the patients with a big Ziploc bag of medicines and drugs that has to do like really dealing with all sorts of side effects. Here we don't have any side effects. Why? Because we get connected to the T consciousness network, the cosmic T consciousness network, that actually governs the software behind the entire existence, and it perfectly knows how to put things back together. So that's an idea. Now, when we get connected to the cosmic internet, the process of a scan happens in that infinite levels of existence, and that infinite levels of existence would basically be dealt with. Let's say just like these aspects are infinite layers of existence, and then we really don't have access to it by our physical means. But the cosmic internet scans the body, scans through all the infinite layers of existence, as Erfan Halgheh suggests. Interuniversalism suggests that we are as vast as the totality of existence. And for us to know what is wrong with all these infinite layers of existence, how they're related to each other, how one thing can affect the other thing and affect the other thing, it's impossible for human beings to actually know if they affect this, how it's going to affect thousands of other things. And up to this date, we don't have actually any technologies to do that, and that's even though that like we use a lot of medications, and then you just look at the patient, see what type of side effects they have, and through the experiments we just basically know, okay, and sometimes we even guesstimate like what's going to happen. But now with this we don't have any side effects, and what happens is that through that connection, Faraday Harmony would scan the individuals, get access to all the information that is faulty, and then detect it, and then bring it out and notify us through some sensory experience sometimes. So for example, I had a patient that had diabetes, and she was concerned about her blood sugar level. And we did Faraday Harmony, and then while she was in the process of a scan, which basically just closing the eyes and observing, she started having symptoms of high blood sugar, like sweating, having some heart palpitation. And then she rushingly comes out of the connection of the cell, and then checks her blood sugar level. It was 6.2, 6.3, which is fine. While she actually had symptoms as if she had it like 7.1 or 7.2. And so she, even though that she had physical symptoms that was indicating a possible high blood sugar, when she measured it, it wasn't like that. That brings us to one of the concepts of scan and what we call it expulsion. So what expulsion is that when a scan happens, that information, the faulty information that exists in our medical history, in the memory of our existence, it brings up in a form of the symptoms. But the symptoms are not actually real. They're just an indication, almost like kind of, how would I say that? It's kind of like bringing out those symptoms, those experiences up on the surface to notify that there is something there. Like let's say if you have diabetes, then you have symptoms associated with that. If you have migraine, your headache might come back. If you have let's say heart issue, your heart might start having palpitations. So those type of experiences is common, and we call it expulsions, and we will delve into it deeper when in the first class and mostly in second, that when we do the scans, when we do a tesal or connection or connecting or linking or basically using Halgheh's connection with the cosmic T-consciousness network, then the process of that scan and the notification comes in a form of symptoms, and that can happen in various different ways, and sometimes we actually don't have any control. Like we actually don't have any control on what is the priority and where it's gonna start, because it's T-consciousness network, it's intelligence, and it just decides on its own based on the individual's situation and the unique circumstances. So that's software, hardware that really helps with a lot of aspects that is being affected by it. We will discuss much more. Let's say if someone heard a bad news and had a heart stroke, that's something that starts with mind and then actually translates to chemical situation in the body and the shock, and then the heart stroke. And then something like that, it could be dealt with Faraday, many other examples that I will go into some of the general ones, but again, like there is no absolute limitation. It can even go out to the level of DNA. In fact, in Cosmointel, we talk about how this connection to cosmic internet can actually reprogram the DNA and then have the issues on the DNA that would otherwise be transferred to the next generation to be stopped for the transfer, sometimes even completely corrected or healed in the individuals that are dealing with it. So let's say with diabetes, it would be passed on to the next generation. This connection to cosmic T-consciousness network can actually eliminate that faulty DNA information, reprogram the information, as well as dealing with the condition itself within the patient. So something to keep in mind. And we have Scientology, which is software, which goes to some of the aspects that we will discuss later. It's a big topic. I don't want to get into it to make it more complicated. I hope I already didn't make it too complicated. But yeah, so there is software and software hardware. What we tried today, when we closed our eyes a few moments ago, it was Faraday money. So I didn't give an explanation because I didn't want people to go say like, oh, things that you told me will kind of use the power of suggestion, and then you were very, kind of implying all that and forcing it through your words or things like that. So I just wanted people to experience it. You can use it again like on your own. You don't need anyone to open these connections for you. You can basically do a Nazar to that T-consciousness network, and then immediately the scan is there, and it will scan you and it will notify you. Now, there's a lot of things that can come up. Again, if you don't feel it for a few first times, don't think that it's not working. Just keep going. There's nothing to lose, really. It's free. You don't really need to do anything. You can even do it while driving or taking a shower or washing your dishes or even reading a book. So it doesn't need your attention. It doesn't need your focus. It doesn't need your time. It just literally plug and go. Literally like connecting your Wi-Fi to your phone and do your other things while it's updating at the background like updating your phone doesn't interrupt you from, you know, making a call or like writing a text message or doing anything else on your phone. So just again, whenever you got confused, go back to the internet analogy. It's so simple. People think it's complicated, but it's really simple. Just imagine that you're really just connecting to the internet, your existence connecting to this cosmic internet, and then through that internet is scanning us. It gives us appropriate updates. It notifies us if anything's wrong sometimes. You might not feel it. You know, sometimes your phone updates itself and its background, you don't even notice it. And after maybe a few days, you go to, you know, your contact and you see some icons change. And you're like, oh, maybe that's a new update. So that can happen. And if you continue using it, you will see the overall improvement. People have reported all sorts of improvement in their quality of their sleep, in their overall energy through the day, some issues that they had. I personally had so many issues that just basically disappeared gradually, and I wasn't the person to sit and close my eyes for 15 minutes, being honest. So I was just, you know, I know something exists, but I'm not sure. You know, I'm just giving it a try. I do my thing, and if it's as simple as they say, it's a Nazar, okay, I do a Nazar while I'm doing stuff as many times as I remember throughout the day, and then see what happens. And as the time passed by, I was feeling some improvement. My anxiety went away, my depression went away, my sleep issues went away, my addictions went away, my body started reacting to substances I was taking. I was smoking cigarette, and then my body starts like really reacting to cigarette, and I was not liking it anymore, even though it was my favorite cigarette and I brought it back from Iran. But I couldn't finish it. Like, you know, usually people say like, you know, maybe you ran out of it, you didn't find your favorite cigarette, and then you stopped. But like, I really developed this tastefulness for lack of a better word, for that what I really liked, and I had no intention of leaving it. I just realized my body really is letting me know this is really poisonous, and I'm feeling it. So I wasn't feeling it before. I was actually quite enjoying it, but my body was notifying that, and then I was like, okay, I don't enjoy it anymore, and I don't need it anymore. So I stopped it. And there was a lot of other things that it just organically happened for me by me just literally doing this Nazar a few times a day, and that's it. So I have lots of stories to tell you about myself, but I usually don't do that because I'm standing here today, and it's easy for people to think that, oh, it was convenient for me to believe all this stuff because it's just convenient to believe in something. I get that from a lot of atheists. I get that, like, you know, well, it's easy to believe in something great as this because then it makes you, you know, overly be more positive in life. So it's a good trick to have believing in something so positive and so optimistic, and then, you know, live by that and feeling good. But it's not like that. You know, it's an experience that speaks for itself. We believe in that, and then I didn't actually got into this part, which maybe is a great transition that just happened. We have two aspects of existence. We have quantity world and we have quality world. The world is existing from two aspects that are not compatible together. So things that are on a step of quantity, in the world of quantity, or a step of logic, or we call it aql, is one of those words that we weren't sure if we should translate it. So I give you the Farsi version as well to develop an ear for it. It's called aql, and I know it's hard for English-speaking world to pronounce it, but it's okay. You could consider it a step of logic or rationale. I like logic more personally for many reasons, because for the terminology it works better in the whole content. But that's a world of quantity. The world of quantity is a world of tools. So when you want to describe anything in the world, this is what we use. We use logic, we use words, we use some sort of mental ability to basically visualize something or express it or put it to words, rationalize it. So thinking, intellect, techniques, science and knowledge, advice and exhortation, reasoning, imagination, visualization, effort, endeavor, will, volition, repetition, suggestion, even mantra and zikr is considered tools. And these are what we consider the main tools and the intermediary tools. Don't get into the details, I will in the course, but for the sake of general understanding, we have the world of tools, the quantity world, the step of logic, and then we have the world free of tools, the quality world, and the step of ishq. Ishq is one of other words that we don't like to translate it, even though that people say like, well, it's love. Yes and no. If you think too deep about it, what ishq means, you realize that love is not sufficient to describe it. But for the sake of ease of conversation, just in brackets, love. But you will understand the more we go further why it's not love, because it's way deeper and has way more implications and nuances. So holding that thought, anything that we know in science, we measure it, we want to see it, we want to logically describe it, we want to be able to put rational and reasoning to formulate that and we express it. But when it comes to the world of ishq, we can't use these tools. Like, you can't explain the taste of an apple. You can't measure your love. You can't measure your passion. You can't really say like, you can't set a time for it. You can't say like, tomorrow at 7 o'clock I fall in love. Or, on Tuesday next week I'm gonna be passionate. It doesn't work like that. An artist really struggle with that because they want to be creative all the time, but the more they want to be creative, the less creative they become. Because you can't force it. We can't force it on anything in a step of logic. We can force it. We can be more perseverance. We can put more effort. We can try more and work harder. But you can't force any of these qualities. And also we can't deny it. We can't see them. We can't measure them. We can't express them. We can't explain them. But they're real. And I'm actually very fascinated how science didn't develop any issue with it, because they usually don't like this type of stuff. They want to measure everything, and everything that is not measurable, then either they deny it or they just say we don't know. But there we don't know is more toward we know better than anyone else, and that means that we just know what we know and we're just gonna stay with that. And anything that doesn't support what we think we know, then we just deny it. So, great respects for scientists. By the way, I'm also a scientist. I know a lot of great scientists. I'm not against science, but I think one of the things, personally saying here, I'm just make this personal. One of the things that I get fascinated by scientists or people that are really rational is that even though that they object to people that they believe in certain esoteric or spiritual or anything that is not scientific, that goes beyond that domain, they're very easily deny it altogether, and they say like, because we don't know. But when it comes to the notions that challenge their view, they're not open to say that we don't know. Even if they say it, their we don't know never gets to a conclusion that they're open enough to give a possibility that they could be completely wrong. So they're biased. And I see like that a lot. And then that gets us to another topic, which I'll get to in a moment, that basically subcategorize individuals into 3 subcategories. Maybe actually I don't have the chart, so I'm just going to talk about it. We have 3 main different people. One people, they're simple people. And these individuals are, if you tell them something exists, they just believe it right out of bat. They just, that's it. They're just very simple. They accept it right away. There's second type of people, which you tell them something that they don't know, and then they're skeptical. They start questioning about it. They want more information. They're not easily just convinced right away, but they're open to the possibility that they're wrong, and then they're willing to entertain the possibility and research and investigate and see if what your claim has any truth in it. And then you have the third type, which they are super knowers. They're like know-it-all type of people, that even though that they are failing to basically admit it, they actually holding that quite strongly in a way that anything that falls out of the domain of what they believe that is possible or true or scientific or any of those terms, they just deny it and don't want to hear it and just basically close any possible discussion. And their type of research is in a way that they are more trying to prove that something doesn't exist rather than actually impartially go and look and research and see if that's a possibility. So even though that they say like, oh, I'm a researcher and I will investigate it, their investigation is biased in a way that they're looking for problems instead of looking at impartially. I'm not saying like look for solutions and look for what you want to see, but look unbiased. Look in a way that you might be wrong in a lot of things and that the implication might be very massive, and that's uncomfortable, but I think that's how science evolved and that's how people evolve. In a way that we accepted the things that we didn't know and we accepted the changes that sometimes were very uncomfortable. Like Koch and Pasteur, when they introduced the existence of microorganisms, people were quite uncomfortable. Think about like just moving around and knowing that everywhere you touch there are some little things that can get into your body, make you infected and kill you. It's quite an uncomfortable idea to think about it. And probably a lot of people died as a fear of these little things that exist everywhere, according to these two crazy scientists. And maybe there were some people that were actually hated those individuals because of such ideas, and then all the implication that it has. You had to be more careful, you had to have better hygiene. Now, through this, you're really being introduced with the ways that we could develop an hygiene that it goes beyond the physical hygiene, and that's a mental hygiene, which we will also discuss it in the course. So here, when we talk about establishing connection with T-consciousness, cosmic T-consciousness network, we are basically going on this world. It's a world that we can't describe it. We can't describe consciousness. We can't describe connection. We can't measure it. We can't see it. We can't use any techniques to directly measure it and directly observe it. What we can do in Science Fact and Cosmointel is published is using the step of logic or the world of tools, the world of science, the techniques and means that are there to measure the effect of the T-consciousness field, not measuring it directly. So measuring it directly, something that it belongs to the world of quality, is not possible, no matter what type of technology we achieve. We never will be able to actually measure amount of love. You would be able to measure the consequence of love, maybe someone having serotonin or like more heart palpitation or overall excitement, but you're not able to actually measure the love itself. So same thing with T-consciousness. So now when you're in a step of ish, then everything that we're basically dealing with is a step of ish. So that's why we want to like let go of all these aspects, like from analyzing, imagination, visualization, putting any effort or our will or intention or mantra or zikr or thinking, or we don't even want to achieve convincing people by advising or reasoning or things like that, even though that we do it in some extent because obviously things need to make sense. But we don't try to convince people that this exists. We want people to experience it, and the only way that they can experience it is through being open and being impartial, and then use it throughout the time, not one time, not two times, like anything else in the world. If you go exercise, you can't just go and then do one rep and then say like, okay, I want to see result. Nothing. even though that this gives result, sometimes it's not immediate. I had people with internal bleeding using walkers, always their doctors on the call for them to go to the emergency room anytime and have surgery for internal bleeding. And within 1 week, they were able to put down the walker and walk for like a couple of blocks, and they did not believe it. And this was when we were actually waiting for the class to start, and they were eager. I was like, just try the connections. She started trying the connections, and she was telling me that she can't unfortunately come in person to the class, and how much she wished that she could come to the class. And believe it or not, by the time that we started the class, she came to the class. And she was not able to not use walker to go to a bathroom. So that was her condition. Very, very severe, and she didn't believe it. So, and that was like maybe 3 times of doing connections, according to her. I actually have some voice recordings and some videos. I actually recorded all my classes when I was teaching, so I have lots of reports in there, people coming to the class and they're just basically saying their experiences. So if you don't have experiences right away in the first times, don't let that discourage you and stop you from using it. Keep using it and you will see the result eventually. When you come to the class, is different. If you come to the class, because you know there are 8 main courses as I mentioned and 2 complementary courses. Each course is designed for a specific introduction to the different aspects of T consciousness network and features that we get and capabilities we get. And this is, Erfan Halgheh is not about just being healed. And it's not about just basically resolving issues that we have, even though that it's a bounty, it's a gift that comes with it. But that's not the main goal. The main goal of Erfan Halgheh is Kamal, and I will define what Kamal is in a great deal. It's one of the biggest topics that we talk about all the time. So Kamal, you know, for a very short description, is ultimate perfection. Now, people want to say like, would you get to ultimate perfection? Maybe not, but you can aim for it. And it's great, you know, like aiming for something great, it gets you closer to it. Maybe you never achieve that in its complete form because by definition it's an infinite path, but it will get you on a journey toward that goal, and that's a very good way to live. But despite of that, Kamal has a lots of definitions, and as well as Erfan. So one of the definitions of Erfan is to be resilient and untouchable. And that's not just physically, it's also mentally and emotionally. And what that means is that life is like an ocean with a lot of waves, and a lot of the times things doesn't go the way that we want. So it's up to us to have a capacity and capability to be able to deal with these circumstances that we can't change them, but we could change our attitude and our energy and the way that we are in relationship to those hardships. And a lot of the times when something difficult or horrible happens in someone's life, then the consequence, the mental and emotional consequences, cause them more of a problems in the form of illnesses and disorders, heart strokes, cancers, autoimmune disorders, depressions, many more. So it is up to us to work on our capacity and capability to increase that in a way that we don't allow the hardship of life to affect us in a negative way, to impact us and paralyze us in a form that we can no longer be our optimal state. Now, when it gets to that, it's very easy to say that to the depressed person, be happy. I wish it was that simple, you know, like, you know, we didn't need like no counselors and psychologists, we just, you know, be happy. But the reason, and even though that the person knows that they should be happy, they can't be happy. And that raises a lot of questions. What does it make the person that has complete free will to not be able to be what they want to be? And that opens up a lot of questions about self-knowledge. What are the things inside us that we have no control over? Even though that sometimes we think that we're in control of ourselves in a great deal. We in fact have not much control of our overall selves. Like one of the examples, like at midnight you want to sleep and then the songs that you really don't like plays on itself and you need to wake up early and you can't stop it. So there's a lot of examples like that and you can't really control it. Now, the ways that they're out there usually to control or get the control of your inner world is usually relying on something in your own ability, whether that's like your persistency, consistency, and diet change, or like meditations or things like that, which can help, but a lot of the times it's not as great of an impact to get a depressed person on their feet to be motivated enough to be functional, or for a lot of different cases someone that went through a loss to be able to actually like deal with that gracefully. Now in Erfan Halgheh, we believe in a notion that it really sets us aside from any other schools of thought, and that's the notion of God-relying, God-oriented. And what that means is that usually if you go to any individuals that they want to be a good person or better person or a spiritual person, or like from an atheist that they only believe in being a good human being and having the good attributes, to a person that believes in spirituality and they're aiming for some spiritual attributes. If you ask them how you want to achieve those attributes, it comes down to some sort of practice, something they need to do, some effort that they need to put, some personal decisions that they need to make that to change that at their will by their ability. And not a lot of people have that strength, not a lot of people know actually how to do that. And quite frankly, a lot of the times we know that's a wrong thing to do, but we still do it. And that shows that it's hard things to achieve, like things that we know that we shouldn't do, we do it anyways, and it harms us, and then we can't control it. Now, in Erfan Halgheh, we believe in God-relying, God orientation, which means that what we want is aiming for those great attributes, and those great attributes are what defines Kamal, as we discussed. And now how we want to get to those attributes, whether that's a very, very basic attributes of controlling your mind, controlling your emotions, being able to deal with difficulties of life gracefully and in a positive attitude, to developing or becoming a high quality person that it doesn't just think about itself and has so much energy and vibrance to offer to other people as well and help others. All of that is something that we get as a gift by the connection to this T-consciousness network. And through those connections, we get capabilities that otherwise we wouldn't have. And that's instant. For example, like if you want to control your mind, have focus. If you want to control your mood, if you're angry, or if something bothers you and you don't want to be bothered by it anymore, it's a very hard thing to achieve. And in fact, a lot of the school of thoughts, like spiritual schools of thoughts, they spend years and years doing meditations, focuses, practices, this and that, to be able to control those emotions and thoughts in those circumstances. It's easy to, go to nature and in a cave and just be immersed by the beauty of nature and close your eyes and take a deep breath and be relaxed. That's quite easy. But if you want to have that same state behind a wheel in traffic, or while your boss is shouting on you, or you're going through some difficulties in life, that's where you realize that you can't just sit and then play a bird song and light a candle in the middle of a fight and take a deep breath and get it under control. You realize that that's not going to happen, and you're in that intensity and you're not able to use any of those tools to mediate the situation. Now that's where the connections come in the middle, that God reliance come in the middle, that we want to rely on this the positive T-consciousness network features and capabilities, the Halghehs, that give us the capability out of our capacity, out of our limitation, our individualistic or individual limitations, to be able to actually be in those qualities, be positive in those circumstances, under those challenges, instantly, without any practice. Imagine if you want to not get bothered by something, how many bothersome circumstances need to come on your way to practice so finally maybe you're not bothered by it anymore, if you're managed to do that, which usually actually becomes more annoying. But in Erfan Halgheh, you actually get this Halgheh that filters those negativities for you, and you just experience yourself being in a way that you couldn't or wouldn't be able to be under those same circumstances without these connections. And this is something very unique. This is absolutely fascinating that we could get connected to a T-consciousness network internet, the cosmic internet, and then almost install an application that filters out things that we don't need and is not harmonious. That easy. So it is possible, and you can try it. So through each courses, we get introduced to different features that we have in these connections of T-consciousness network, that ultimately, again, the goal is not for us to not just get bothered by anything, even though that is one of the goals, but that's not the final goal. Imagine you have full control of your emotions, full control of your thoughts, and you're healthy. Then what? That's the big question. The question is, what are we doing here? What are we supposed to do here? Are we here to just have a bare minimum of life on Earth, which animals are doing a great job of having, and plants having a better job than animals by having, because they're just standing and even providing and not harming, maybe occasionally falling accidentally, but that they're doing a great job. So what are we doing here? So is all this creation, all this intelligence, all this fascination that came to existence is only for human beings to come to just live like a complicated animal? Is that all? I would object to that idea personally. I think that would be a ridiculous idea for God to have. And I think like there's something bigger and more important, and something that we are capable that we just don't know about it, a purpose that we haven't realized yet, and we reduced ourselves to such a point that now we almost think that we're just a complicated animal, not very special, and who cares? Live as long as you're alive, if healthy, and enjoy. And that has been the philosophy of a lot of people's life. And what happens with that philosophy is that life doesn't go with that philosophy, and things happens, and then they suddenly find themselves in the middle of something that they didn't expect it, and then they starting to question a lot of things. And that, I think, is also one part of this design, to make people realize that we're not here just to live like a advanced, complicated, joyful animal, to make it very bluntly. And I almost wanted to make an apology, but I don't. So I think the deal is very great in that. In Erfan Halgheh, we want to really answer this question. Where did we come from? Why are we here? And where are we going after we die? Is this life all about just being a complicated animal? Or is it greater purpose? If there is a greater purpose, what it is? And who says? And why? Who says that a specific purpose is there? And Erfan Halgheh invites individuals to come and explore that on their own. We don't want you to leave Erfan Halgheh and let Erfan Halgheh tell you what is the purpose of the universe. We want you to come and have the T-consciousness network, if it exists, to tell you, to give you the experience of purposefulness, that you're here for a greater reason, and you can live it. And then once you lived it, you cannot unlive it. And then that changes you for better. It makes you a better person. It makes you a healthy person. It makes a better, healthy cell of this big body that you're part of. So then you can really see if that really happens for everyone. We don't have the corruption that we have now on Earth, that everyone thinks about themselves. Everyone is very filled with their desires and endless desires. endless wealth, endless position, endless power. Why? Because we think that this is all that we are here. And the better you are, the more powerful you are, the better you know the games, and then it's the law of jungle. And that's unfortunately the life that we are living, and that's why we have so much corruption and tyranny. And Erfan Halgheh, as I show you, has great deal of explanation and solutions for all these aspects of existence. All these parts, there is something. And they're all coherent. You can test them and it works. If something works collectively, that is not relying on an individualistic subjective perception, then it's truth. And you're inviting people to come and experience that for themselves. Because it's easy for someone to say like, okay, I think the purpose is this, or I believe this is true. And it's different than if we collectively experience and have that validity within our heart. Erfan Halgheh is an invitation to come, get connected to the T Consciousness Network, test if the T Consciousness Network exists by utilizing first Farlamani. Even if you're doubtful that it works, you can take it, apply it on others, and ask them to give you a report. Once you realize that Farlamani exists through experience on others, not through my words or anyone else's words, then you can start asking questions, how does this work? Where does this come from? And what is the implication? This is the implication, and more. This is nothing that, like I've seen crazier charts than this. Like this is nothing than what actually exists. And I'm sure it's crazier in Dr. Taheri's mind. But, for now, this is just like published, and we can go deep, and each of that is like a whole program. So once we establish that the T Consciousness Network exists, once we experientially tested the effectiveness of Farlamani on ourselves and others, then we can move on and, on other courses of the program, those main courses, we learn how to get the control, the maximum control of our existence, our thoughts, our emotions, and then through that, you get ready to learn how to be aligned with the dance of creation, how to be aligned with the existence, and how to implement those qualities in day-to-day life, and not only for ourselves, but also helping others to take advantage of the greatness that we're living in and live in the every moment fascination of life together. Thank you so much.